Hey guys, Dezz Asante here once again from the Techmuze podcast with another super informational packed episode here for you. One of the reasons why I enjoy doing this show is because I get the opportunity to network with other professionals in the industry and to brain pick a little bit and to bring these thoughts and ideas to you as the listener or the viewer if you like to watch this on YouTube. And today is no different. Today I have with me, I'm excited to get into some conversation with DeCarlos Garrison. DeCarlos, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. How you doing? Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, my pleasure. Like I said at the intro, I mean, I love to have a little platform like this that gives me a chance to be able to meet people, chat with folks, expand my own network, but also to bring some value to the audience, to the listeners. And I understand that you are in the business of helping out DIY musicians as well. But before we get into that, for people watching and listening, just tell us a little bit about who you are, what's your background, and then we'll get into what you're up to these days.
Oh, wow. Well, my background's definitely been in music. At an early age, in my early 20s, I worked for Def Jam, part of the street team. Did that for a while. From there, I started managing groups, working radio. I think probably my biggest project I worked on probably was Nelly as part of the marketing team, kind of seeing it from the lower level. And then just, after that, just kind of like really hustle my way around the industry. The great thing about being a part of like Def Jam, street team and Universal Street Team, they have these calls that they have like once a month that you can hop on and listen to everything that's being discussed, as long as you have the pin to log in. So you hear all the big conference calls. You can hop on A&R conference calls and marketing conference calls back in the day,
right?
When you had to phone in. So that was, very insightful. Then from there, I moved into radio, did that urban radio for a while in Memphis, Tennessee. Then I got recruited to come to Orlando to work in radio here. That led me to go on to work for Transcon and then managing artists like Smiles and Southstar. Then from there, I moved on to managing a national group called Follow Your Instinct. So it was kind of all over Europe. So I'd have the privilege to kind of see how to launch a product from concept to market.
Right.
So
very cool. So how long ago did you sort of get your feet into the music industry? Like, is this a lifelong thing, or did you wake up one day and said, that looks cool?
Probably 20 years.
Okay. So long enough to learn a few tricks, I imagine.
Yeah. Yes. I've been for like 20 years, man. Trial error, just going through the process.
Right. Yeah, I get it. And I guess a lot of us are in that position. A lot of the people that listen to this show and watch on YouTube are DIY musicians, people, who've been working on their craft for a number of years, but might now be just starting to get into, producing records and trying to market themselves and grow an audience and a fan base. And I understand you help a little bit with that, with your current endeavor. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah. So what we do at Band Basher, we want to give you a realistic goal of success, right? So the first thing we do, it's a lot of different things we want to help you achieve. But the first thing we want you to understand is the knowledge of the music business, to understand when you go talk to these labels, if you want to talk to a label, if not, we want to teach you the ins and outs of the music business, about publishing, about branding, about different types of deals that are out there for you, the anti-360 deal that most folks kind of overlook sometimes. Then on top of that, we teach you about your data, understand how to track your data, what that social engagement means to you. So we try to break it down to on a lower level of this simple understanding. The videos are probably like 2-3 minutes each.
Right.
You dedicate like 10-15 minutes a week, and it's kind of like going through a lesson and kind of test the knowledge. You'll be good.
Right. Okay. So I guess the entry point into the services that you guys offer is really from an educational standpoint for the most part.
For the most part, yes. And then we also have opportunity to connect with people on the site as well. So we want to teach you about the importance of networking and building your network, and not simply just following people just because you want to connect with them, but connect them with a purpose.
Right.
Connect with them. Okay, this person's a songwriter. This person's a producer. This person plays drums. So you want to be able to have a network that you can reach out to when you need to get things done. Not just, we're friends. No, I'm connecting with people to build a working relationship with.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's funny because I think all too often a lot of musicians and artists forget about how important that network is. I mean, and the reason why a lot of artists in particular fail to consider the importance of it is because a lot of DIY musicians don't consider themselves entrepreneurs or business people. And I could understand that. I mean, not everybody has an entrepreneurial mindset, but I do believe that in this day and age that we live in, if you're trying to take a stab at, turning your hobby into a career, you've really got to put on the business person hat and learn, study, and grow your network, meet people who have skill sets that you lack. And, like if you need to know a little bit about, okay, how do I run a Facebook ad campaign to launch my next single, talk to somebody who knows that and add them into your network, see how you can offer help to them. And then perhaps you'll have a mutually, a symbiotically beneficial, business relationship as well. So right. I think you touched on something really important there. It's a simple concept, but it's an important one, and a lot of people fail to take advantage of their networks. I also think a lot of people have a hard time asking, and I found personally that it's way easier for me to ask for some help from somebody when I start by offering help.
Right.
Right.
As long as it's a mutual respect and a mutual benefit. Like that's what networking about. I give you something, you give me something. Or I may not have this person, but I know somebody that do it. Let me connect with that person.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed how your network gets you in a lot of different places. Like the best thing about me that people that know me know that I keep good relationships. So therefore it's a phone call if I need something.
Right.
So I pride myself on developing and being if I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. You know. So that's kind of the approach that Band Bash take. Like we're not gonna tell our users that we have all the answers, but we'll tell them if you put a question towards us. If we don't have the answer, we'll go find it for you.
Right. Yeah. Or connect you with the person who does.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. Like we just want to help people at the end of the day. Like I started the company simply to help people. Yeah. But it came to a platform that's really making traction in the things that we're doing.
That's excellent. And I can completely relate because it's the whole reason why I started the Techmuze Academy, this podcast and everything surrounding it. I've spent a lot of time, I'm an information junkie myself, so I've spent a lot of time studying and learning and practicing and implementing and things. And for me, and also I'm a podcast junkie, so I listen to a lot of shows. And eventually I thought to myself, you know what, I've learned so many things about so many things that I need to start putting that back out into the world. And of course, and that's why I started the podcast, which of course it's free content. Anyone can just tune in whenever they so choose. But I've also got a couple of courses that I've put together that are available inside the Techmuze Academy. And so it's a beautiful thing, and I'm sure you can relate to this, when you can take something that you're passionate about, something that you're naturally going to do anyway, and when you can figure out how to build a business model around it so that it's mutually beneficial for everybody, Right. Yeah. Yes. So how long has Band Basher been kicking now?
Well, me and my co-founder Gleb, we kind of started the company like 4 years ago. Okay. Then it took us probably 8-9 months to get a prototype built overseas, which is it's difficult working with companies overseas, different time frame, different language, different cultures. But we got a working product. Then we hired a new team locally in Orlando. Took down our old site and we relaunched July 2017.
Oh, okay. So the current iteration is fairly recent, less than a year in its current form.
Yeah, its current form. Yes.
That's very good. And what's the user base like? I'm assuming it's growing now. I mean, you're doing talks like we're having now and spreading the word, which I think is a great thing to do.
Well, to be honest with you, to be in the space we're in right now, to have close to almost 10,000 users within the time we started,
that's fantastic.
Is exciting, right?
Yeah.
Then to understand the product that everybody sees right now is that the fact that we're constantly updating and gonna probably have another whole new look and structure in 90 days. Like we always constantly improving, always trying to get better, and always trying to add the right benefits for our users. we're not going to get caught up in all the features. Our job is to show you what you want to get to and how to get there.
Right.
So we know you want to have some kind of level of success. Perfect. We understand that. But here's the process.
Yeah.
We don't really cover the sexy part of the industry, right? Okay, we cover, and the sexy part. Like, I'm putting out my CDs. I got shows and blah, blah, blah. So people want to go straight to that section and not understand before you get to that level. It's so much more you need to do before you get to that level.
Yeah.
Because you want to get your foundation right.
Yeah.
So that's what we try to teach them process, right? I tell people that this is like any other career you want to have. If you want to be a doctor, it takes about 10 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So same thing as an artist. If you really are serious about being an artist, it takes you 10 years.
Yeah.
And if you put in 10 years at a calculated plan, okay, I'm going to learn the industry. I'm going to put this out, and now I'm going to have a plan how to go to the next level. You can be successful. You can make money.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of times we're, especially younger artists in this day and age with the sort of YouTube culture that we have and just the internet in general and a lot of the amazing things that it affords us, but also just the way in which it has an influence on culture and the way in which we see things. And, I'm the father of a 12-year-old girl, and it's hilarious sometimes talking to her, just to see the difference in perspective. When I was 12 years old and there was no internet and I was outside riding my bike and playing with a stick or whatever, and she's making videos on Snapchat or whatever and talking about how many views she had on Instagram and this and that, right? And I think a lot of times people, online, people tend to show their best, obviously, right? You go on Facebook, you see people showing the awesome pictures of their vacation and this and that. They show their best. And a lot of people think that that's all there is. They see someone singing a song on YouTube and it has, 2 million hits. And they're like, okay, all I got to do is sing the right song on YouTube and I'll have 2 million hits and a career. And maybe, sure, sometimes that happens. Sometimes something just catches on and goes viral. But that's not a strategy. That's not something you can prepare for and plan for, And so I think the work that you're doing is really valuable because you're educating folks. You're letting them know that, yes, this is a place that you can get to. It's a destination that is achievable, assuming you have a decent quality product, assuming your music doesn't suck, obviously. We always got to start there, hone your craft, right?
Well, this day and age, it depends, right? But we don't get in that conversation. It's a whole nother conversation about what suck and don't suck. I understand. They should have good music.
Yeah, and that's the thing with music and any kind of art. I mean, it's very subjective. Something that really bothers my ear might have a market for it out there somewhere, And that's the beauty of the internet too, because you have the opportunity to find the tiniest, most niche market. You could be doing like death metal polka with violins, and and somebody out there is going to dig that, right? And now online we have the opportunity to find those people. And I have a course inside the Techmuze Academy called the Artist Promotion Blueprint, which is essentially internet marketing strategies for independent musicians. And that's something that I talk about a lot. It's like you can have the tiniest little audience, but now we can find them all. And even if there's only 10,000 on the entire planet that are interested in what you do, you can find them all. And 10,000 fans can make a decent little career if you if you strategize properly and you engage and grow relationships with your fans correctly. So it's just an interesting thing to consider where we are these days versus 20 years ago, and I think it's a real valuable thing that you're doing there with the way in which you're educating young musicians, or not just the young ones, but the ones that are new and to the industry, new to getting into it. So, but we talked a little bit about that. Let's dig in a little bit, if you don't mind, to maybe if you could offer our audience here a little insight into, some steps that they might consider taking, or some things to look out for. Any advice that you might have for a DIY musician with no record label, no industry contacts? What would be a good sort of very general framework? Start here, kind of move towards this direction, and what do you think? Could you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, but can you repeat the question? You kind of broke out a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah, basically, I'm just looking for some general advice that you might be able to give to our listeners here, who are DIY musicians with no industry backing necessarily, who are trying to take a stab at being able to pay a couple of bills with their craft. Can you give some sort of a loose sort of overview strategy as to what they might consider, or perhaps even just things that they might want to look out for, potential pitfalls and hurdles?
Well, there's a couple things, right, that I think you touched on some earlier day about how easy it is right now to put music out and have your followers and all that stuff there, right? So I think depend on exactly where you at, right? So if you're in a point where you're like, okay, I'm just gigging right now, I'm trying to get my band out there, I'm just playing some gigs, or if you're hip hop, whatever case may be, wherever you do, right? So at that perspective, you have to do a ton of free shows, right? So you need to set up, okay, in the mindset, I'm going to do these free shows, right? But what you want to do is at the same time, while you're doing those free shows, figure out some piece of item, just one. Don't go with a whole gang of stuff right now. Just go with one item that represents your brand. Sell that item and also collect emails and get all their social media following. So one thing you want to do is build your database up. So you get the emails, you get their social media stuff, and you ask them like, hey, let's take a picture together. Be very personal with them. They like you. It may start with just two people, but there's two people you didn't have before you did that show.
Yeah.
And those same two people come to your next show, and they might bring two more friends, right? And then instead of having just that 4 people there, now you met 10 people. So if you start building your fan base and building your data, now when it's time to get paid shows and you go back to the same things you performed at and say, hey, I know I can bring at least 100 people to this venue to perform tonight. Here's how much I want to get paid.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I'm going to bring 100 people out perform. Let me keep the door. You keep the bar.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
So you have at that way to make money. So now you continue to grow. And if you do it right, the first thing you want to do is make your rounds around the city. And then from there, you want to spread maybe 5-10 miles outside your city and start doing that. And it's as slowly build where you can, since we're in the United States, capture a state. And once you capture a state, at this point in time, you should be close to about $3-4 grand a show. If you capture a state,
right?
If you got that much of a following built behind you, now you gigging all weekend.
Yeah.
So now you support yourself. Now take that same cash, put it back in. So, okay, now how can I take this brand and go regional?
Right.
Right. Now let me go record some more songs and drop an album. See, the thing people fail to realize, they stop working the album too soon because people still haven't heard it. Mm-hmm. Right. Once you got 3 good songs you like, work those 3 good songs to death.
Yeah. Yeah. You make some interesting points there, and it's nice to chat with you because like my sort of area of expertise when it comes to marketing in general and marketing music specifically is the online approach. Now, as a working musician myself, I do gig and I do try to grow my real world, quote unquote, following, just like you mentioned, one fan at a time. You know, if I go to play a gig and I don't get paid and I make one fan out of it, I feel as though I've earned something right there. You know, because that person now, especially like you mentioned, if I capture their contact information so I can continue to grow that relationship, you know, if that relationship improves, and I've talked about this many, many times, then eventually that fan may turn into a supporter, or also known as a customer, you know, and every business needs customers, you know. Right.
But people fail to realize this, right? And they got to start looking at their data as their followers. They got to look at their followers as leads, right? So at some point in time, you got to turn that lead to a customer.
Yeah.
So you have to keep working that person to they buy a piece of merch, or they actually share your song or download your song. Like, I think that is the approach that most people fail to realize. Your followers are simply leads to turn into a paid customer, which equals a fan.
Yeah, exactly. I interchange those words. Up. I interchange those terms myself all the time. A fan, a friend, a follower, a supporter, a customer. You know? Yeah. So what are your thoughts on, once an artist has acquired a database, you know, of email addresses, of social media followers, you know, you may collect your database in various different areas. What's a good next step, or how should people approach that database. Like I've been guilty of this before, where I've grown an email list and I've got 2,000-3,000 people on an email list, and I'm just not emailing them. Well, that ain't going to help, because I'm not going to develop that relationship with those people at all, because relationships is the cornerstone behind business. People do business with people they know, trust, and like. In fact, this week's episode was all about that. How do you get somebody to know you, like you, and trust you, so that they want to support you, and they feel comfortable to make a transaction with you. So, but in your opinion, okay, let's say I've spent some time and I got an email list. I got 3,000 people on that email list. What do I do with it?
All right, so it's a couple things you could do, right? So if you want to go traditional and you're not really tech savvy, you can actually do something. Just email them when you have something really to share. Like, don't over email them, right? So you want them like, hey, thank y'all for coming out, blah, 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 what case may be, right? So a couple things you can do that's pretty cool that people don't think about. Once you ask for the email list, ask for their birthday. Yeah. Right? And like, not necessarily a year, like just what month and day you was born. So when they come around, if you have the steps to the right, you can automatically, hey, wish happy birthday again. Hey, by the way, I got an upcoming show. Like, email them something that pertains to them. Yeah. Now, if you really want to do something, Facebook got a couple tools that you can do that you can run. When we teach this on our site as well, that 3,000 list you have, you can run it through Facebook and find out exactly where they are on Facebook and talk to them. Yeah. So Facebook is a whole other topic we can get into at some other time. But yeah, there's some powerful things you can do on that platform. That for those who are listening, what DeCarlos is talking about is about creating a custom audience on Facebook. You can take that email list and you can upload it to Facebook, and Facebook will find all of those Facebook accounts that match that email, and then you can go ahead and put an ad out in front of them, in front of just those people. All right. I think I lost your picture there. Well, I got a bad connection on the video. Okay. Well, we got the audio still. There you are. Well. There you are. Yeah, no, you bring up some good points, and I appreciate you saying those things. And like I mentioned before, I mean, really the goal is, and I love the birthday idea, by the way. That's great. It's simple to do, especially if you can find a way to automate that process, which is something I talk a lot about over in the Techmuze Academy. But yeah, MailChimp. There you go. Yeah, MailChimp is great. I use it myself. There's a bunch of other platforms that do those kinds of things as well. Aweber and Drip and all these things. But find a tool that you can use to really automate a lot of these processes. But the birthday thing is simple and effective because, I mean, even on Facebook nowadays, Facebook always tells people when it's your birthday, right? And so, you wake up on your birthday and you got all these messages in your inbox saying happy birthday. It makes you feel good. It gives you that personal connection to the people who are wishing you that happy birthday. And every now and again, I'll get a happy birthday email from some, company that I've done business with or whatnot. And it's like, that's cool. It doesn't necessarily make me jump right in and buy a piece of software or something from them, but it puts their brand back in my mind with a positive emotional connotation to it. And that's a super simple and effective thing to do. Because I don't know if you would agree with me, DeCarlos, but I mean, really the goal is to nurture a relationship, build a relationship with these people in a way that can scale, and I've said this before, it's like, when you have 3 people on your email list, it's easy. You don't even have you can handwrite a letter, put it in an envelope, throw it in the mail, and keep in touch like that. But when you've got 3,000, 30,000, 300,000, you need to figure out a way that you can still be as personable and genuine and authentic with each of these subscribers, these fans, but in a way that can scale. And that's where tools like MailChimp that you mentioned there and some of these similar tools, they really come in handy because they allow you to communicate and even put in the first name of the person to really make it personal and communicate directly with your audience and grow that relationship. Once you get that person past the music and into who you are, into liking you as the artist, then the fun begins, because now you have actual fans. And I can't remember who it was that wrote the article about 1,000 true fans. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I can't remember the gentleman's
Yes.
name right now, but he wrote a really interesting article about how you could have literally a six-figure a year career with just 1,000 true fans. So the question is, what are you doing right now to go out and start finding those fans? And you're going to have to find 10, 20,000 subscribers before you find that 1,000 true fans, you know? So you got to get started get started yesterday, you know?
Right.
What about finding, apart from grabbing emails at gigs, can you give some other suggestions before we run out of time here about other ways that artists could go ahead and start growing their database?
Yeah, it's a couple things. The first thing come to mind is that when you're trying to grow your database for as your followers and all that, you got to know exactly what time to post, when to post, get that engagement going. That will help out. Making sure that everybody you know share your content, not just like it. Like likes are cool, but shares are better.
Yep.
So if you get that process going and build that, and on top of that, you have to find somebody that can actually help out with your social media as well as to grow that fan base. Could be a friend, could be whatever. Again, we teach that on our social media class on Band Basher. So it gives them opportunity to talk to somebody and have somebody else there while you doing your stuff or recording. You have somebody there taking pictures, because people right now want to see, they want to buy the artist now, right?
Yeah.
They want to buy the experience of following the artist and all that, and content, right? That's all they are feeding and starving for content.
Amen.
So great content, great follow up on your social media. People that follow you make cooler comments on their photos when they post. They know, oh, yo, my artist coming on, this smaller things, like go back to the birthday thing. Like if you have somebody that's following you, go through that thing every now and then, comment or like a picture, right, on Instagram, or share one they post, right? Like that goes a long way for people. And that's a way to start turning your followers, which is your leads, into a fan, which is your customer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about building that relationship. And, people who follow me for a while have heard me say it over and over again. And I apologize, but you're going to hear me say it more times in the future. But it's about really building that relationship, which we can do now on scale, which is exciting. But it does take a little know-how, a little strategy. Another thing that I might add to what you've just said is one of the strategies that I teach inside the Artist Promotion Blueprint at the Techmuze Academy is to have a spot on the internet that you own and control, i.e. a website, that you can link out to all of your social media platforms so people can follow you wherever it is they like to hang out. You give them those choices, right? But ultimately, you want to have that central hub so that you can begin to collect people's email addresses. Maybe you have something that in the marketing world is often called a lead magnet, right? Where you have something that you're going to give away. Maybe it's a track, maybe it's a video, maybe it's some behind the scenes footage, whatever it is that your audience might be interested in. And you say, here, I got this for you. Just throw your name and email and tell me where to send it, and I'll send it right away. And you can start to grow your list that way. And with tools like MailChimp and the like, you can set up automation email campaigns where you can pre-compose 10, 12, 20, however many you like emails that are specifically designed to engage and nurture that relationship, to sort of let people into your world. Who am I? Okay, you like the song. That's great. I appreciate that. But now I want you to like me as an artist. I want you to be a fan of me, because that's where you reach that tipping point. You know what I'm saying? So I think having a central location online where you can kind of funnel people from all of your content that you're throwing out there on social media, they click it, they come back to your website where you can then offer them something for free in return for that email address. And that's a great way as well to sort of begin to grow that database with people who are actually interested in what you do, Would you agree with that?
Yes, totally agree with that.
Do you guys talk a bit about in your courses a bit about sort of the online world and how to build a website and any of that stuff? Is that included so far, or is that something that might come out in the future?
We do discuss called branding.
Okay.
It's called branding. Basically, we kind of run the gamut about social media, how to build social media, having a presence online, collecting emails. So we walk through the whole process.
Right.
Actually,
very good
of doing that. And that's some of the things that we do. But also one of the things that we do as well, like we we put out interviews talking to different artists or people in the music industry, different executive as well. You know, and occasionally you might catch me doing a rant because I have a pet peeve. There's nothing wrong with like a certain sound that's out right now, and I think artists get caught up in let me make something that sound like that sound. And what they fail to realize that once you make something that everybody's a fan of that sound, then you never have a fan in you. It's a fan in that sound.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure if you are going to dabble in that, have a strategy like, okay, this is a big pool that everybody's listening to. Let me get a song that catch their ear, but let me slowly move them over to my brand.
Yeah.
You know, like, because I think everybody at this day and age is kind of starting to look alike, right? Like, you know, back when I was, I went and bought CDs. I knew who my artist was, right? And none of them kind of sound the same, right? Now I can't separate a lot of these, and I'm a hip hop fan. I love hip hop, so I can't. At this point in time, for me, it's hard. I'm a fan of the sound, right? But I couldn't tell you not one artist's names.
Right. Yeah.
And that's bad branding.
Yeah. Yeah. You make a great point there. That's interesting that you bring that up. I appreciate it because branding is definitely, I mean, in any business, doesn't matter what it is, your branding, which is, your presentation essentially with thought given to your unique selling proposition. What differentiates you? What makes you a little different than everybody else? You can have similarities like you're saying, I can have a tune that's in this sound that's popular right now, but what's my unique spin on it? There's an artist by the name of Asif Avidan. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. I don't know how big the guy is, but I saw some of his videos on YouTube, and he's playing some interesting music. But the thing that makes him extremely unique is his voice is unlike any voice I've ever heard. If I closed my eyes, I would have thought he was a 12-year-old girl, maybe. You know what I mean? But he's passionate. He's good at what he does, but he's got that thing that's different, that's unique. And so I think it's important, like you mentioned, to find that. What is that thing that separates you from the crowd, even though you might be in a similar genre to a lot of other people? What's that USP, they call it, that unique selling proposition, Do you have any, I'm going to be respectful of your time here, and we're going to wrap this up in a minute, but do you have any quick tips on how an artist or a band might go about sort of crafting their brand, or what's important? I mean, like, is it important that, your Facebook cover photo is the same as the image on your website? What's important in a nutshell? Just a couple of quick pieces of advice for branding.
All right. Well, first of all your photos need to be the same across all your social media, so nobody get confused on who's who. Right. That's first and foremost. Yeah. Also, keep it very clean and simple. Right. Understand that, and it's more get into more into depth in marketing. But make sure your logo don't have a lot of noise around it, right? Make sure your logo is nice, clean, and crisp, and easy to find, and it's easy to wear. It's easy to go on shirts, hats, whatever the case may be. So you really have to think out your whole branding process. And again, the logo you start with may not be the logo you end with. It's okay to update and change the logo as you move forward. But at the end of the day, whatever you do, just make sure that the brand you put out, because we talk about our branding course as well, is that it's you. Yeah. Right? Like, don't create an image that you can't keep up.
Amen. Right? Hallelujah.
Right. So just make sure that you're authentic in your brand and people feel that. People can understand that. Yeah. Because we are human. We all relate. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, you got to realize you're making music, and it's always an emotional connection to music. Yeah. Let's don't overthink it. Keep it simple. Keep it true to yourself, and make sure all your photos across your social media is the same, and post at the right time.
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice, and I really appreciate you talking about the authenticity of your brand image, of your presentation. It's something I talk about a lot, and I think it's extremely important. I mean, there is a debate that I've had before with people. Some people, they have a manufactured brand. Think about bands from back in the day, like Kiss or whatever. They've got a very prefabricated, manufactured brand. And that worked great in the early days there, 20, 30 years ago. That worked a lot better than it does today because of the fact that there was no internet and social media, So, I mean, you're seeing this this amazing, like their faces are painted and they're doing something that they look like nobody you've ever seen, and that captures your attention, right? But nowadays, when I can reach out to anybody on the internet and send them a private message or an email or whatever, like that artist up on a pedestal that happened back in the 80s and the 70s, that's not quite what people want anymore. And people's bullshit meters, I like to use the phrase, are in full effect. And so if you're not being genuine and truthful, whether somebody realizes it consciously or not, they're going to know. And there's going to be something about that person that just kind of puts me off. I don't know what it is, but there's something about them that puts me off. So you got to, like, I appreciate you saying that. You got to be genuine and authentic to the best of your ability and to the degree that your comfort levels allow. I mean, you don't, like I said in my last episode, you don't have to, pull every skeleton out the closet, right? But you want to make sure that what you're putting across is you. Because as we've mentioned, even in this conversation, and as I've mentioned many times in the past, it's you want that your fans to be a fan of you, not just that song you put out, because that's when the game changes. DeCarlos, man, I appreciate you taking the time, brother. I really do. Before we wrap it up. Before we wrap it up, tell everyone where they can find what you're up to, where they can get helped by you and your team if they want to delve a little deeper into the industry, and just anything else you might want to let people know about.
Perfect. Bandbasher.com. Like, we're here to help you reach different levels of success and understand the process of what it takes to get there. You can follow us on all our social media, Bandbasher. That's across IG, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. It's the same. But yeah, and also if you come to our site, if you have any questions, reach out to us. We are always there online. You will see a little chat box pop up, and have any questions, just type away.
Perfect. Yeah, bandbasher.com. I will leave links in the description under the video on YouTube and in the show notes over at techmuseacademy.com if anyone wants to check out what DeCarlos and his team are doing over there, helping musicians to actually make it to that next step and beyond in the music industry, which can be a bit of a challenge to navigate if you're uneducated and you're not aware of what's happening or what has been happening, what's going to happen. I imagine you guys keep your finger on the pulse of trends, stuff that's coming around the corner. That's a valuable service that you provide, man, and I appreciate you doing it. Like I said, I'll leave links wherever this content is found. There'll be links there as well for people to check you out. Listen, brother, I appreciate you taking the time. Anything else you want to leave, any last thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
Hey, respect the process.
Respect the process. Amen, brother. I appreciate it. And I'm hoping that you and I can stay in touch as well. Like we talked about at the beginning, I like to expand my network. And that's one of the reasons why I enjoy doing this show. Get to meet interesting people like yourselves who are out there serving the community that we serve, which is DIY musicians, artists, and producers. So I keep doing what you're doing, brother, because I think it's very valuable. And hopefully we can talk again soon. And maybe as you guys grow the company and you start adding in new features and new services, perhaps we can jump back on here and let everybody know what you've been up to.
Perfect, man. Sounds good, man. I also want to check out your platform as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll send you some links. And for those watching, techmuseacademy.com is the place where you can find everything that gets produced. And there's also the community there if you decide to become a member. There's a bunch of free courses on the front end to sort of whet the appetite. And like I say, thanks DeCarlos once again, and hopefully we can chat again soon.
Definitely, my man. Thank you for having me.
All right.